2, 1.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's 2 o'clock, and this is the Gulf Expat Show. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Welcome to the Expat Show. This is Ramadan Radio, live on ramadan.live and on Facebook. And you can join us by texting, phoning, or WhatsApping on 07933 003 179, 07933 003 179. And this is the Gulf Expat Show, and it's a show all about being a Gulf expat. We will discuss different aspects of being an expat. We will answer your questions. We will address your concerns. My name is Burhan, and my co-hosts are, as usual, my son Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum.
And my wife Rifka.
Assalamu alaikum.
So, to begin, in last week's show on Friday, we had some unanswered questions, right? We had some questions that came in and which we didn't get a chance to answer.
Yeah, so last week it was mostly focused on grad specific stuff. So we spoke about different industries to get into. We spoke about opportunities out there for grads and interns. And the conclusion was there aren't many for non-Arabic speakers.
Yeah.
And we spoke about young doctors in Abu Dhabi, but there were a couple of unanswered questions. So there was one surrounding mental health, which we're going to be covering today.
As best we can.
As best we can. There's one about healthcare, which we will discuss in a future show.
Yeah.
And there was a big one about practicing Islam and how moving out there changes that.
Yeah. So thank you for those 3 questions from our listeners, and apologies we couldn't cover them then, but we are going to cover them in this and future shows. And in fact, the question about how moving out there affected our iman, our practicing of the deen, that kind of thing, raising children, it's such a good question. We're going to dedicate a whole show to it. And so just to let you know how our shows are going to pan out over the next 2 weeks, because there's only 2 weeks left of Ramadan. We've got this show and then 3 more after today. Today's show, what Yusuf just mentioned.
Today we're going to be doing, we didn't finish off all of the stuff to do with grads. So there's a couple more points that we had to hit. So today we're going to be discussing what employers are looking for. We're also going to be talking about when to move out there, which kind of is applicable to everyone, whether you're a grad or slightly older. And we'll be discussing mental health. And kind of a prerequisite to that is higher education and how the quality of the education over there and how that sets you up.
Plus, we're going to have a guest in about half an hour's time from Dubai.
Yep.
A brother called Zahid, who's been out in Dubai for, I think, 13 years and also has lived in Qatar as well. So he can give the Dubai perspective. And as you know, last time we had somebody from Abu Dhabi, and before that we had somebody from Al Ain. And then on Friday,
so on Friday, what we've got is, we've anecdotally, what we've found is that a lot of people that in the last couple of years have been moving out to Turkey, and it's increasingly becoming a legitimate option. I think in the last 15 years or so, the Gulf kind of dominated expat choices. But Turkey is like, it's a developed country. They've got a great transport system. They've got lots of universities out there. And so on Friday, we're going to be talking to a woman who's settled out there in the last year with her family and talking about the practicalities of moving, the schools out there, language issues and stuff like that. So please tune in on Friday if Turkey is somewhere you're thinking about.
Excellent. And then a week from today, on the following Monday, Yusuf?
Oh, the following Monday, we're talking about lifestyle, and we'll be addressing the healthcare question in that show. We're basically going to be mostly discussing our experience of Doha in a more kind of personal way. So what we saw there, activities to do, what the weather's like, just all the stuff that we experienced there, including, I guess, secondary education, because we're not going to be speaking about that today. We'll be speaking about that. Yeah.
Plus, we'll have a guest on that show, inshallah, from Jeddah, but he also worked and lived, I think, in Riyadh as well. So again, just trying to mix up the various cities in the Gulf. And get some guests on. And then our final show, inshallah, which is going to be on Friday, the 22nd of May, which could be the last day of Ramadan, I think, is going to be about what we talked about Islam and Iman and raising children. And we'll dedicate the entire show to that because, there'll be right before Eid, so that sounds like a good opportunity to do that. So that's what's coming up. And again, you can join us on this show and any of those shows by texting or calling 07933 003179. But back to today's show.
Okay, so higher education. Mum, you're a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You have a master's in education.
I do.
How would you describe the quality of higher education in Doha?
Okay, so I think it depends very much on the university that you go to. We had that option in terms of, were we going to send our kids to university out in Doha, or were we going to come back? We made the decision to come back because at that time I felt it was really important for you to come back and have like a UK university experience. I felt that the standard of education was better here.
Yeah.
Having said that, it really depends on the university that you're out there in. So they have like medical degrees at, which are available in Qatar. And I think if you've got a medical degree, it really doesn't matter which institution you get it from, it's always going to be rated. However, going to somewhere like Qatar University, or there's another one called HBKU, what's that? Is that Hamid bin Khalifa University?
I mean, it's more like the overarching organization.
Right. Okay. So I think if you go to somewhere like Qatar University, it is like ranked between like 400 and 500 in like the universities worldwide.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be the same as going to a London university.
Yeah.
Also, the fees out there are really high. So, if you go to one of the Education City universities, which has branch universities of ones which are in the US,
such as
like Northwestern, Georgetown,
Cornell,
Carnegie Mellon, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go to one of those ones, you are talking about, I think it's like $50,000 or something per year.
Yeah.
In terms of the fees, which is an awful lot more than you'd be paying in the UK. So you have to kind of balance that up. They do have scholarships if you're like means tested scholarships, but you have to apply for them every year, and there aren't an awful lot of them. So yeah, there is that consideration.
If you were to get a scholarship, let's say, would a degree out there be worth any less than a degree from its sister university in the US? Like if you went to Carnegie Mellon or Cornell?
I feel like they're at a different stage of development. So what these branch universities have is they have visiting professors who come from the original university, right? And you just like you have sister schools out there of like private schools which are out in the UK. So they do have like a certain amount of ethos and the rest of it which comes into their branch university, but it's not the same standard of quality or stage of development as the original ones.
I mean, from my perspective on that, one of my clients in Qatar, when I spoke to him, he had gone to Cornell in the US, and he was a physician, and and when he told me that he went to Cornell, I went, "Oh, Cornell in Qatar," and he just went, "No." He said he likened it to. He said, "I had the real Coke, not the Diet Coke."
Oh
dear.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there is a massive difference.
Well, I think there's a little bit of snobbery there as well. I'm not sure if there is a difference from an employment point of view, inevitably, but I don't think it's quite as big as the people who went to the proper Cornell. I say the proper Cornell, but the US Cornell actually think the difference is. At the end of the day, if you go to Cornell in Qatar, you still have an MD. It's a 6-year program. You get an MD. You are a doctor.
Yeah.
And a number of people who have got their MD from Cornell in Doha have done their residency in prestigious university hospitals, in prestigious hospitals in the US, in Washington, in New York, etc. So it's not a, there may be some level of hindrance, but it's not going to stop you from getting the residency. It's not going to stop you from practicing as a doctor.
Is this all just specific to medicine? What about someone like me who wants to study economics? Is that the same, or is economics everywhere? I mean, that's not.
I'm not sure, to be honest, when talking about the Qatar universities, whether that's the case. I think if you're looking at a particular professional career, then once you've got your qualification and then you've got your professional exams under your belt, the world has moved on. I think maybe 10 years ago, maybe it would have counted, but now with apprenticeships and school leaver programs and people, the degree and the institution not counting for quite as much as it used to, and we're moving in that direction. You know, you've got companies like Deloitte and KPMG, they have kind of name blind applications now. So they're trying to make sure that there isn't this unconscious bias when it comes to the application process. So you don't put in or we're moving towards a situation where you don't say what your institution was, because that could bias the application process. You don't say what your name is, because that gives away your gender and gives away your ethnicity, and that could be a factor in terms of bias. So as we move towards that world, and it is very rapidly moving towards that, I think university education, as we saw it for our kids, 3 years ago, in another 3 years' time, I think that the choice is much different. I think maybe our choice would have been a lot different if we were making this choice in, like, say, 4 years' time.
It's true. I think it's very hard, though, as sort of parents who go out there and you've got young children, you know that you kind of go by your own experience, right? If you've gone to a really good university back in the UK, it's hard to accept less than that for your own kid and kind of go, okay, it doesn't matter and the world has changed, because you're kind of still living that same mindset. So it's like, I still know lots of mums out there now who are kind of going, well, it's a really short-term thing, because I know that once my kid hits 17 or 16, I need to get back. And for some of them younger, because you want to have 3 years here so you don't have to pay expat school fees, international school fees when you get back to the UK, uni fees. So
yeah, I mean, also, if you go to one of the great institutions of the UK, you know, Oxford, Cambridge, Kingston,
LSE.
You know, then obviously that's going to be an advantage. That's still going to have an advantage. That's a global issue, right? If you go to Oxford, not so much Kingston, that's just my alma mater, but you know, if you go to Cornell in the US, if you go to Stanford or Yale or Harvard, you know, these places are not going to, that's not going to change. That's just the way the world is. There are some things which are they're just life.
Well, okay. I think a question that lots of people my age want to know is, does it affect your career? What's a better career move, starting out in London or in the UK, or starting out over there?
That's a very good question. You know, it depends on how you view your career structure, right? So if you see your career in a very structured way, that it goes from a junior level to a mid-level to a senior level to a kind of partner level, whatever, then you're probably better off here, because there is a structured program and you know what to expect. However, you know, careers are a developing issue in developing. That sounds stupid. The way people see careers is a developing issue, right? So if you see your career more as a series of experiences rather than just going from junior career to senior career, then you'll experience much more in the Gulf. You'll experience much more abroad. You'll experience different nationalities, different languages. You'll probably travel more. You'll probably get pushed around a little bit more, right? So you won't be as rigid. So if you're in assurance, let's say, or in consultancy, you won't necessarily just stay in that one field, or you're in a particular industry like IT, you'll be expected to be more flexible. And that flexibility may well be a huge advantage. So I think it depends on the rigidity with which you view the word career.
Is it easier to get a job out there if you already live there? Like, does it affect you if you apply for a grad scheme over there? Let's say you're an Arabic speaker.
Yeah.
Would it be better for you to still apply over here? I mean, not better in terms of career, but is it easier for you to get a job over here than over there? Or does it make a difference?
If you're an Arabic speaker.
If you're an Arabic speaker, right, there are opportunities out there for you as a grad, right?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So there are opportunities both here and over there. So which one would be better or easier to get?
Okay, so if you're an Arabic speaker, you'll definitely have a jump on people if you're over there, right? So like I said, you will have more structure over here, and there's probably a higher status level. However, if you're in an Arabic-speaking country, you will be put in front of clients a lot quicker, because you can talk to them. You'll be reviewing documents which are more detailed quicker. You won't, you'll be putting together the slide packs in Arabic. You'll be in the workshops. You'll be facilitating the workshops because you're the Arabic speaker. So a lot of the senior level people out there in the multinational firms, they don't speak Arabic, right? They come from a Western background. They don't speak Arabic, or more than a few words. And so they'll be then reliant upon you. That then builds your network, not just with the clients, but it builds your relationship with the senior staff as well, because where they go, you will go, right? You will go to the workshops with them. You will go to the client meetings with them. You'll build that relationship. And that can only be good for your career. So, you know, if you're an Arabic speaker, like anything else, if you've got an advantage, leverage the advantage. If you've got the advantage of a language, and leverage that advantage. If you've got advantage of, for instance, you're in London and you've got the advantage of knowing one of the partners here, then obviously you would stay here.
Is it an advantage for Arabic speakers though? Because the opportunities there are only for Arabic speakers. So everyone applying already speaks Arabic.
Say again?
Is it actually an advantage? Do you have an advantage over other people who are applying to jobs out there, because there are only jobs for people who speak Arabic? There's no jobs for people who don't speak Arabic. So who are you competing with?
No, there are jobs for people who don't speak Arabic. There's not, yeah, I mean, not all the graduate programs are, you know, they don't exclude non-Arabic speakers. They prefer them. I mean, I'm specifically Ernst & Young, EY, they exclude them, right? Yeah. It's one of the criteria. You have to have Arabic language skills.
Yeah.
The other ones, they will have a preference for it, but it won't be excluding. And that's just for the graduate program. If you're joining as an experienced hire, even if it's after 1 or 2 years of experience, then those restrictions don't apply, even at EY.
Okay.
And for any other jobs, especially in the public sector, or if you're looking in the oil and gas sector and these kinds of things, and then if you then move on to things like the tourism sector, where I'd imagine Arabic language skills are really going to be, you know, much more useful, and that give you a huge advantage, then sure, there's no reason why that wouldn't play to your advantage.
Okay, and you found something for people who want to learn Arabic.
Yeah, so if you're currently in your, I don't think it works if you're in your final year, but if you're in your second year and you're kind of thinking of what to do after uni, and you're seriously considering maybe taking a gap year, maybe you don't need to work immediately, your financial situation allows you to do that. There's a program which is available at Qatar University. It's called the Non-Native Arabic Speakers Program. And it's competitive, it's highly competitive. There's lots of people around the world that are trying to get in there. But if you do manage to get a place on that course, it's a 1-year course where they will teach you Arabic. They will pay for your flights out there. They will pay for your tuition fees. They will pay for your accommodation. They will pay for 3 meals a day. And you get access to gym and all the rest of it. So if it's something that if learning Arabic is something that you're considering doing, and you want the experience of living out there and seeing whether it's something which suits you, it's something you want to go into, then that's something to really look into. Plus, whilst you're out there, you're surrounded by lots of other Qatari students who have Qatari parents who may work in all the Q companies. So it's a good opportunity to network and get to know people, and that might be a way in. If you're not an Arabic speaker now, that might be a really good way in to get a job out there.
I mean, that's a really good Arabic program, and it's one of many across the region. I know people who've learned Arabic here, right? Yeah. In institutions here, and that's becoming increasingly the case. But also, of course, there are programs which are well known in Egypt, in Jordan, in Palestine, in Lebanon. Used to be in Syria. I mean, there are probably still in Syria, but you can't really do that anymore. If there are other programs that people know about, please do let us know about them, because I think the Arabic language skill, not just from a work point of view, but from a social point of view as well, is a huge advantage. It really is worth having that skill beforehand. So do join us on the Gulf Expat Show. Text or call in 07933 003 179. Let us know what you think of the show so far. If there are any Arabic language programs that you can recommend that you've experienced, let us know where they are, how you got in touch with them, what the expectation should be. Should I expect to be fluent after 3 months or 6 months or 1 year? How many hours a day, how many days a week are we talking about? Join us on 07933 003 179.
So we discussed briefly that basically it's better as a grad who is going into a career that's more structured to start off your career over there. Yeah. I mean, over here, and get trained here for non-Arabic speakers.
No, I don't think that's what we said. Oh. I think what we said is it depends on what you want out of your career. If you want something which is quite structured and rigid, and you want to have that if you want to have the name of saying, I went to this office in London, I graduated and I got trained in the London office. If you want to be able to say that on your CV, and if that's important to you, and that's a legitimate, I'm not putting that down, that's a legitimate requirement or desire rather, then fine. But I don't think it harms your career if you want if you have a broader definition of career, then I don't think going to the Gulf is a hindrance.
Or does it depend on whether you want to go out there permanently or want to move back at some point?
Possibly. It depends. Depends what your reason for going out there is as well. If you're going out there to save money, and we're going to move on to this part of the show now, right? If you're going out there to save money, let's say because you're looking to get married, or you've recently got married and you want to save to buy a house, or put a deposit down on a house, or just because you want to save money just for life generally, then if that's a factor, then obviously depending on what your personal circumstances are, generally speaking, being out in the Gulf, you will be able to save more money, generally speaking, but there are exceptions.
Right.
Yeah, you can actually live quite frugally while you're out there, in terms of if you're a young bloke who's just moved out there by himself, you could, or lady, you could get share a villa with like 3 or 4 other people, so you've got one room, so that cuts down your rental costs.
Yeah.
There are sort of cheap eats out there, like shawarmas, which you can get, I don't know, it was like £1 or £1.50 or something.
£1.50,
I mean, you don't want to be living on shawarmas, but there are like cheap eat options out there.
I want to be living.
But all our listeners disagreeing with you there.
Right. Okay. But the difficulty is that whilst you could save an awful lot of money while you're there, it's quite a difficult thing to do because you're surrounded by people who are living extravagant lifestyles.
Yeah.
If you want to go and relax, then the only places which are air conditioned are the malls. I mean, you have lots of other air conditioned places, but mostly people go out to malls in the evening. Everything there costs. So it's hard to, unless all you're going to do is window shop, it's hard to do stuff without spending money. There was an anecdote which you told me once about a bloke who, it was like a Qatari man who said, the salaries that we give are quite huge, but they're like the sand that you hold in your hand. Like it'll fall through your fingers and the money will remain in your country. Do you remember?
Really? No, I don't remember this anecdote.
That's a brilliant.
That's very. That sounds something.
No, but that's something that you said to, and it's stuck in my mind because it sounded really poetic. But it's also quite.
That doesn't sound like me, poetic.
Oh really? Okay, no. Maybe not. Maybe I made it up.
Okay, fine. So
say it. That's quite interesting. Say it again, though.
So the money that they give you, an awful lot of money, but it's like the sand in your hand. So it will fall through your fingers, and the sand will remain in Qatar. So your money will remain in Qatar.
Oh, I see. No, that definitely wasn't me. That's very profound.
Okay.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. We've got a question come through, so let's just go to the question first, and then we'll carry on our discussion. Is that okay? Sure. Do you want to read it out, Yusuf?
Oh, this one.
No,
the other one. Okay, so many of the Middle Eastern countries are moving towards hiring locals only. Is that the case with Qatar? How does it impact those that may want to move abroad?
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, so every one of the Gulf countries, and when brother Zahid joins us in 10 minutes or so, we'll ask him the same about Dubai. They have a nationalization program, and their aim is generally around 20-25% of the employment workforce should be nationals. Does it impact your wanting to move abroad? Yes, it does, especially in certain fields. So the more generic your job title, the less likely it is that, the more likely it is that they want to Qatarize or Emiratize that position. So for instance, if you've got a job title, and I know a lot of people do, a project manager, the ministry which kind of filters these applications, and it does go through government ministries, they may well go, well, look, this guy's a project manager. We've got tons of project managers. Why are we hiring a British national when we've got Qatari project managers? Why are we hiring an American national when we've got an Emirati project manager? So you have to make yourself different. You have to make yourself more specific in your role and your skill set. If you can specify, what you actually bring, which is a set of skills which others don't have, that sounds like a line from Taken, right?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. And if you have a special set of skills, like the guy from Taken, then you're more likely to get a job in Qatar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have any other questions, then please text in on 07933 003 179. To move back to the topic of when to move out there, mum, should I move out there before I get married or after I get married?
Okay, so I think it depends. I think, okay, so the only question mark I would have on moving out there just as soon as you've got married is that getting married is like a fairly that first year is fairly difficult anyway. Like, contrary to popular opinion where it's supposed to be like the honeymoon period, it's actually quite a tough first year because you both have to adjust to each other's personalities. You have to sort of see each other when you're like feeling down, when you're feeling up, all the rest of it. Plus you have the additional pressure of moving abroad and not having your social networks in place, which means that you don't have people that you can go to cool off and this, that, and the other who can give you good advice. And you're moving away from your family. Now that may be a good thing in some circumstances. If you've got really interfering families, you can kind of go out and do your own thing. But for the majority of people, it's kind of good to have your elders, if you like, around just to kind of guide you and sort of point you in the right direction, saying not like this, like that. So in that first year, I would kind of like give yourself a little bit of time to kind of get to know each other and kind of bond and create that bond kind of strongly before you make that move, because that's a test in itself.
What would you say the mental health impact of going out there as a young couple without your parents would be?
I think it could be,
or from a new wife's perspective.
Well, it can be really isolating. It can be isolating if you don't see your family just because you've moved from, say, up north down to London, and you don't see your family as often as you normally do. Now, actually, a good analogy is this whole lockdown thing. So if you imagine being in lockdown and not being able to see your parents on the end of a FaceTime or like some online video thing, but not actually being able to go and hug your mum or hug your dad. It's that kind of, that just gets you down. So whether you'd want to do that on the other side of the world is kind of up to you two as individuals. Some people are strong enough to withstand that. And it may be that actually being this lockdown scenario, people may feel they have more peace of mind because you don't have all these outside external people, like always, like, if you don't have a great relationship with your family, that might be the case. But, it can be tough. I wouldn't. So for me, I wouldn't have wanted to do it in my first year.
And if people do find themselves in that situation, what can they do to kind of relieve that pressure? What avenues are there if you're feeling like you have some mental health issues are kind of creeping up on you? Then what avenues do you think are out there to address that?
Well, I think first and foremost, something which is like we're constantly talking about in the Muslim community, we need to be talking about more and consistently and all the time, is that mental health issues affect everybody, and there is absolutely there should be no hesitation or shame or double thinking contacting a professional counsellor for help. It's like, it should be like your go-to thing, which parents should be encouraging their children to do, brothers and sisters should be encouraging each other to do. It should be a norm within our society that this is just part of life. Everybody, at some point, everybody is going to have mental health issues. And so if you find yourself out there feeling that, you have counsellors and mental health practitioners out there who you can contact. And a lot of these things are available online now as well. So you could always contact somebody back home who you feel will get to know you, will get to understand you better. And
maybe this is a question, or not a question, maybe this is something that could be talked about with, and there were a couple of shows on Ramadan Radio, right, about mental health issues, and a couple of our presenters are qualified psychotherapists, etc. So maybe they want to chip in and join this conversation, or maybe address that in their shows. If you do want to join us, it's 07933 003 179. I'm just going to go to the question.
Okay. Oh, well, I just had one.
I'll read the question while
you're... to add in terms of mental health. Another big thing is obviously being part of a community, being part of your Muslim community in that country, whatever that is. And that's something that we'll talk about more in the final show, with like practicing Islam and stuff like that. But having people around you who you can kind of lean on, because it's very lonely being out in a new country without anyone who's similar to you.
I think one of the hardest things is sort of if you're a young stay-at-home mum as well, like if you've got young toddlers and stuff, because that might feel like the best time to go out there because your kids are not in school yet, so you don't have to worry about school fees. But that can actually be one of the most isolating times to go out there, because unless you can drive and have like or know of other young mums who you can socialize with, you can just be stuck at home with the kids all day, kind of like going out of your mind. But
Okay, so I'm gonna turn to the question which we've got here. Then I'm going to bring in Brother Zahid to talk a little bit about Dubai, and then with him we're going to keep on answering the questions that we've got, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about work-life balance.
Yep.
So the question that's come through is, what are the outdoor activities and natural spaces to explore in the area, parks, forests, etc., for someone who prefers spending their downtime in nature rather than malls? Well, I think that's a very nice question, especially linked to the mental health issue as well. Kind of spending time in nature is one of those things which really helps to calm people down, especially if they have kind of anxiety issues, what have you. Now, there aren't any forests in Qatar, not that I know of anyway. There's forest of money, perhaps, but there's nothing like I think what you mean. But there are parks. There's lots of parks in Qatar. Some of the parks have air-conditioned areas within the parks, but mostly people go there either after Maghrib or kind of late Asr time. In the hotter months, but in the winter months they go during the daytime, right? They go even during the sunny time. It's not quite as hot.
Well, not but from about 2, 3 onwards, that you can't really go at noon.
Yeah, probably. But there are many parks in Qatar, and some really nice ones as well, and not just the large ones. There are kind of local community parks as well, which are smaller. Each one of the parks tends to have like a play area for kids, like a football, like a 5-a-side football pitch. Some of the better ones also have tennis courts.
Some of them have little shops.
They have shops. They have bicycles which you can hire, and bike paths you can go on. The large one, like the park next to the Museum of Islamic Art, that one has like pedalos and stuff. You can go on pedalos in the water, and you can hire a rowing boat. And they also had these kind of stalls, people selling knickknacks and food and stuff like that. And if the park is next to a mall, basically you go to the food court, you get some food, you go, and it's got a ready-made picnic basically.
So that was one of the key things that people used to do in the evenings, is just like all head out and have picnics. Sort of, it sounds weird, but you have picnics in the evening and at night time, and you just have people just sort of walking around at night and just having like a chilled out time. It sounds weird, but it's actually really calming and relaxing.
Plus beaches as well. I just wanted to mention beaches as well, because obviously Qatar is mostly coastal, kind of 95%. But in the residential areas, which is mostly on the eastern side of the country, there's some very nice beaches, and they're clean as well. Well, they're clean in the beginning of the day, and then by the end of the day they get quite dirty because people leave their rubbish behind.
In fact, the only time that the kind of the grass and the country in general gets clean is after it rains, which is about 3 times a year, and other than that it's all sand, right? I
wouldn't say it gets cleaned, because it just
feels cleaner.
It just brings the dirt to the surface.
Okay. Well, anyway, this is stuff that we're going to be talking about in our lifestyle show. Yeah,
we'll talk more in detail about that. So thanks for that question. We'll talk more about that.
I just had one more point actually to say about the nature thing and links to mental health. One of the things that I found the best to do out there is there was a corniche, right? And just sitting there, walking along that and looking out at the water. Is it the sea or the ocean? I think it was the sea.
I do.
Is the sea?
Yeah.
Arabian Sea.
Arabian Sea.
Or Persian Sea, depending on which side of the water you are.
Is it not the Indian Ocean?
No. The sea feeds into the ocean. That's the way GCSE geography works.
Didn't do GCSE geography. So anyway, that's something that I
There's some water there, isn't there?
There's some water there, yeah. So
and you can look over it, and you can walk along the corniche, effectively like a promenade.
And that's beneficial for mental health as well, for people.
And many people do that. That's a very common evening activity I think in all the Gulf countries. And I'm going to bring Brother Zahid in now to confirm what I'm saying, or to contradict me completely. Zahid, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum, brother. I'm here.
Walaikum salam. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
Good. How's lockdown during Ramadan? Or how's Ramadan during lockdown, rather?
It's different, obviously. A different experience, but probably a little bit more family focused. We're obviously missing the masjids big time.
Yes.
But I think the community is rallying. We have a lot of talks online. The Mlanas and the different sheikhs that we have in the community are still offering 2-3 talks a day.
Excellent.
Quran recitation, 1 juz a day, quizzes for the kids. So alhamdulillah, there is where there's a will, there's a way, and people are trying to still connect. So alhamdulillah.
That's really good. That's really good to hear. Do you want to just give a quick bio for our listeners of your how long you've been there and why you're there, that kind of thing, and then we'll go back to our core discussion around, you can tell us about the university opportunities, etc. in Dubai, and give us your thoughts on what we've been talking about so far.
Okay, perfect. So I've been in Dubai for nearly 13 and a half years. I came beginning 2007 with my family. The kids were quite young at that time, so I had 3 at that time. I got 4 now, alhamdulillah, but 3 when we first. So we've been through the schools here, and we've been even through home education as well. So we've tried both. Had a lot of success on home education, actually. My daughter did very well. She got into King's College last year.
Okay.
My son, he went through the school system and he got into Royal Holloway, so he's in his final year there. So yeah, and then we have my other son who, mashallah, is an artist, so he was homeschooled to do his hifz. So he's finished that a couple of years ago. It is going to be starting his GCSE soon. And then we got a little monster who might break into the room anytime, just shouting at me. He's 4. So I'm giving you a pre-warning of that. So yeah, I came out in 2007. I've been in the financial markets industry, but I've been working in the DIFC for the last 13 years.
Yeah.
With a stint in Qatar in between for 4 years when I was working at a company at the QFC. So I'm very familiar with Qatar, but I used to still live in Dubai. I used to be one of those guys who used to commute from Dubai into Qatar, spend the week there. Then come back on the weekend. So that was an interesting experience. I had some good friends that I used to live with. We used to share a flat. A lot of stories I could share about that, but one of them is listening. Embarrassing.
So I'm going to ask you a few, like we did last time, a few quick fire questions. Do you want to ask those?
Okay.
And then just to give people a flavor of your life in Dubai. Right, it's quite a subjective issue, but I think it's nice for the listeners to get a flavor of what life is like in Dubai from somebody's perspective who's been there for 13 years or so, like you mentioned. So go ahead.
Okay, so Brother Zahid, the first question that I want you to answer is, what's the best thing about Dubai?
See, that's quite a subjective question. Dubai has a lot to offer. There's all the bling bling that people know about, the malls, Burj Khalifa, all the fancy cars, which is one key aspect of Dubai, and nobody can deny it. But what we love about Dubai is the community that we have. I live in a place called the Springs.
Yeah.
Our local Masjid Samad is really a magnet to the community, and we've built countless, mashallah, friendships through the masjid. So I'm talking about myself. I have many friends that we've developed through the masjid. The wives have also touched base there and managed to make friendships, and so the children. So we have a very tight-knit community.
You're avoiding the answer to the question, Zahid. What is the best thing about Dubai?
That is the best thing, the community.
Politicians answer.
No, that's the best thing. I think it's...
All right, next question.
Okay, what do you miss most about the UK? It can be an item or an activity.
Miss my family and friends. I mean, that's the biggest. Every expat will tell you. I miss my father and my sister and brothers. All my friends that we had back in the UK. So that's an easy one.
Okay, and what's the one piece of advice you wish you'd received before moving out there?
That's again a good question. I was thinking about that one, and I think probably learning Arabic would be a good move. That would really help with not just socially, but in career-wise. I mean, you guys touched upon careers here.
Yeah.
I think speaking Arabic would definitely be a huge benefit. It opens a lot more doors. So that would be probably the thing I'd. If I could go back in time, I'd probably focus on. And also, obviously, it benefits the deen as well if you know Arabic. So.
Okay, and if you had to resettle in another country after Dubai, where would it be?
First choice would be UK. Family and friends, obviously.
That's cheating. We mean another expat country.
Then I think you guys mentioned Turkey. I mean, my family, we love Turkey. We've been there a couple of times.
Right.
I think an interesting adventure and very different.
That's a very good answer, because you can tune in on Friday and listen in to our show about Turkey on Friday at 3 p.m. Okay, so we'll just get back to our main discussion. And if you want to join us, it's 07933 003 179. You're listening to Ramadan Radio live on ramadan.live and on Facebook. So, Brother Zahid, you heard our discussion around universities, whether the universities in Qatar, etc., were, they were seen as good as the ones in the West, how they're seen from an employment point of view, what it's like in terms of moving out to the Gulf, if you're a young person, or if you are slightly isolated and you don't have that social network. Would you like to give us your thoughts on a couple of those things that we talked about from a Dubai point of view?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously in Dubai also have a number of Western universities here, and generally the view is that they're not quite the same, and they tend to be a lot more expensive as well. So one of the options we looked at for my daughter was going to Birmingham University here, and they said it'll be exactly the same certificate as if you went to Birmingham, London. You wouldn't know any different, which is all fine, great, but it was actually double the cost. So it didn't actually make sense for us to, send here when it was, that's one issue. The other issue is the amount of universities, the type of courses here, it's a lot less limited. There's not as much variety.
Yeah.
She wanted to study psychology, and then there's very few good institutions here that offer that course.
Yeah.
So yeah, from our perspective, and certainly the people that in our circle, most people send their kids back to the UK.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. That's a very interesting point, because I found the same thing in Qatar as well, from a professional point of view, right? So psychology as a discipline isn't something which is hugely valued, I found in Qatar. Maybe it's the same in the Emirates. It was different in Saudi. In Saudi, you had kind of a lot of Saudi qualified psychologists, and it was seen as a discipline which was a legitimate one. But for instance, in Qatar, there's kind of like a list of official jobs which expats can do. And psychology wasn't on there because they didn't really know what psychology was. It just wasn't a discipline that they recognized as something that had value, right? So it was, so counseling, mental health was restricted to psychiatrists. And if you so the link between mental health and professional discipline was just psychiatry, nothing more than that. It was very narrow. So it's interesting you mentioned that. Sorry, carry on.
So just quickly in relation to that, my sister is actually a fully qualified psychologist. She runs her own practice. It's called Sukoon, and so she's been to the Middle East a number of times. She's her and her husband, they've done a few courses here.
Yeah.
So I think the at least interest in the field is growing. But it's a very important field. I mean,
it is. It is.
Mental health is something that's so underrated, not addressed often enough. And I totally agree with you guys there.
And do you think that the thing that we were talking about in terms of getting sucked into the consumer spending lifestyle, for somebody who's young, so a young person who wants to move out to the Gulf, but they want to do that to save money, how do you think they can do that? Is that something they can do given the Dubai lifestyle? Can you be frugal and still enjoy life in Dubai?
You can be, but then the important thing is finding the right crowd, the right friends.
Yeah.
If you get the wrong crowd, the wrong friends, I mean, subjectively, you could end up being spending a lot of money doing the wrong, and that money will go through your hands like you mentioned before. If you find the right crowd who are maybe interested in sports or deen or whatever, then you can definitely live a life that doesn't require tons of money, flash cars, that kind of thing. And that's what I wanted to go back to. The community here is very tight. We don't really go around in Ferraris and Porsches and whatever.
Not all of them anyway. Some of them.
Some of them. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yusuf, you wanted to bring in the discussion around work-life balance?
Yeah, so I guess we briefly touched upon last week kind of networking and how that's different.
Yeah.
But maybe in Dubai, this is a new insight. What's networking like over there as someone who's junior? Because over here, I found that in order to network with senior people, you have to kind of either go to, I mean, I didn't, but you have to kind of go to the drinks or the bars or the, things after work. So is that the same out there? Is it more Islamic in that sense? Or is it basically the same?
I don't think it's quite the same. The life here doesn't revolve around, meeting in bars generally. I mean, there are people who obviously do that, but I work in financial markets, which back in the UK would be, a lot of the meetings would be after work in bars and whatever. But
yeah,
I've never had to ever even once go to, an event that was or being invited to a bar. So alhamdulillah, I'm not saying that everybody follows that, but I've never had that requirement. So I think for young people, the opportunities to network are frequent. There's a lot of events here. There are a lot of the good thing about the DIFC, it's all built in one area, so you can literally go out your office, meet 10 different companies on your doorstep. There's a gazillion different coffee shops and restaurants. People meet there constantly. So networking is actually quite easy. So the events help, the facilities help, and people get to know each other, and then they give you other contacts, and people are very helpful from that perspective. So I think from networking perspective, it's probably easier here. But I've been here a long time. I can't really remember how it was in the UK.
Yeah, that is I mean, I found when I came back, the work environment and kind of just the expectation in the work environment is very different here, and it takes time to adjust back to. So just in terms of the norms, the interactions, and probably the biggest thing, which probably Zahid you've forgotten about as well, and I had, is working on a Friday, and having to manage Jummah and things like that. And did you find that when you were at work, Yusuf?
Well, to be honest, I was quite lucky with my first job, because I think it's rare, I don't know, but when I joined, I told them about Jummah. They said, this is over here, they said, just take out as long as you need, even if you need, like, instead of an hour and a half, take as long as you need for Jummah, that's fine. And for prayers, they understood that, I think it was during the winter, there were 3 prayers during the working day. And they said, you can take 10 minutes out for each one, that's fine. And we're fine with that as long as you get your work done.
I mean, that's a blessing that your generation has.
Yeah.
Our generation mostly prayed under the stairs, and in the box room, or in the post room, or in a cupboard somewhere, and kind of you did 4 rak'ah at the end of Zohar, and then you waited 30 seconds until Asr time, then you prayed another 4 rak'ah, and then you went back up to the office again.
But even then, it's still not. Even then, I had to. Okay, it's not as bad as that, but I had to wait for an office room to be free or a meeting room to be free. There's no designated kind of prayer room. Whereas over there, I'd assume there is a prayer room in every working space. Right?
Pretty much. I mean, but you have no idea the number of stairwells that I prayed in. Zahid, what offices there generally? I imagine, like Qatar, they have a prayer room either in the building or in the office itself.
Absolutely. I mean, in the DFC we have 3 masalas. Large ones, then obviously the large companies themselves have their own prayer area. So that's one of the biggest benefits of being in the Middle East. You can pray literally anywhere, and even if you prayed on the street, nobody's going to say anything, because it's kind of almost normal. If you're on the highway or something, I mean, you see that happening as well. So that's one of the benefits of living in a Muslim country, the convenience of being able to pray when you want, knowing that whenever you go to a restaurant and things halal, those kind of things make a huge difference.
Definitely.
I also wanted to ask about the attire. So over here, for women especially, it's difficult for people who want to wear abayas and stuff like that. They kind of have to conform a little bit.
Yeah, so. I remember when I was much younger and thinking about going into law and stuff, it was like, okay, well, if I actually work in that field, how am I going to do it wearing like a hijab and an abaya? Because back in those days, just people really didn't do it. I think it might have changed like now. But the difference is, when you're over there are loads of women who are in professional jobs who are, really comfortably wearing their abayas, wearing their hijabs, and nobody looks twice. It's just completely normal. So in that sense, there is a lot more. You have access to a lot more kind of different careers without feeling, okay, I'm not sure how that would work with what I wear and you know, the rest of it.
I think it's interesting, just from a philosophically interesting, shall we say, that in over here, the work attire is becoming more relaxed, right? People are, you know, you don't necessarily have to wear a suit and tie to work for some professions unless you've got a client meeting. If you're just going to be office based, then you can dress down.
Well, yeah. Yusuf wore really casual clothes to his work.
A bit too casual.
A bit too casual. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, certainly in Qatar, maybe, and Zahid can talk about Dubai as well. Over there, basically in the office environment, you're expected to wear a suit and shirt, not necessarily a tie. Ties are for client meetings, but suit and shirt for men, or national dress, the thobe or the kandura, or whatever, in the Emirates for the men, and for the women they had to wear office clothes or the abaya, right? So it was national dress, or it was kind of office-based kind of clothes. There was no kind of dress down. I think we used to have like dress down Thursdays, but I mean, that seemed pointless to me.
To be honest, that was the same here. We just had dress down Fridays, and all the other days were kind of
not smart casual rather than suit.
I know the big four do that, but mine.
But it's moving towards that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Zahid, what's your experience in terms of office attire?
Yeah, DIFC is pretty much all suit, to be honest. So is the QFC. So suits, business attire, local dress for the locals. We have seen sort of some of my clients more tech based, so they kind of wear what they want, t-shirts and you know, jeans. But yeah, I think it's still pretty formal here. But it depends on the company, the industry.
It does, doesn't it? It depends on the industry a lot as well. If you're talking about kind of like the slightly more stuffy industries like consultancy or law, there is that. It's almost as though they expect it of themselves as well. They don't feel like they're. When I'm saying I can speak for myself, you know, you don't feel like you're in work mode unless you're wearing a suit. Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree, especially investment banking that we do.
Yeah, investment banking, I'd imagine, is very similar. We've got two questions in which I don't think we're going to get to be honest. We only have 3 minutes left, so I'm going to read them, and then maybe we'll be able to answer them next time. We'll give a 2-minute answer. Is career development rigid? Is there discrimination against certain races and classes, or is the system meritocratic? And is wearing a hijab a barrier in some workplaces? I think they're both really good questions. The hijab, and obviously I can't answer. I don't think we've got time to do that justice. And also the whole meritocracy and the various different levels of ethnic classes and stuff. We did touch on that last time. I can touch on that again next time as well. But in short, I think that there is a level of discrimination, and there is, you know, it's not a purely meritocratic system of work out there. And I don't think wearing a hijab is a barrier to any work which I'm aware of.
No, there were, I mean, you had women in right in the top jobs in lots of different fields who were all wearing hijab without anyone sort of batting an eye and thinking it was weird.
Just to mention in my own field, in healthcare, the Minister of Healthcare in Qatar is a hijabi lady. The Chief Executive of the Primary Healthcare Corporation is a niqabi. The Director of Finance at the Ministry of Health is a niqabi. So I don't think that's the case at all. We only have 2 minutes left, so I want to thank Brother Zahid for joining us, taking his time out during Ramadan. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on that. Our next show, as I mentioned, is on Friday, this coming Friday at 3 p.m. And we are talking Turkey. We are talking about all things to do with living in Turkey, moving to Turkey, practical aspects of the move with a family, what the transport is like there, what the schools are like there. And one of the key things that we'll talk about is kind of route to citizenship. One of the key differences between why Turkey is becoming increasingly popular, as anecdotally we've been told, is because in the Gulf, as Zahid well knows, is that, you know, there's always this sort of Damocles over your neck, that where your residency permit may not be renewed, or you maybe find yourself out of work. I mean, the coronavirus situation is that situation. And then you have to leave the country. Once you don't have a job, or you don't have a residency, you have to leave. Whereas in Turkey, there is a route to citizenship, and therefore there's more stability. So please join us then. And coming up next at 3 o'clock, we have Brother Abdul Alim with his show, and he's going to be talking about the new lockdown measures, How do people feel about them? How do you as a parent feel about your kids going back to school in June? So give him a call, stay tuned, and give him a call on 07933 003 179. And from us, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.